What is up? Hey everyone. I'm just making sure that everything is running. Just a sec. Why is this being... What if I did this? Yeah, there we go, there we go. Okay. Hey, bruh. Hey, Pierre. Hello, everybody on Twitch. Anybody on YouTube? Anybody on X? Anybody on LinkedIn? I don't know who watches me on LinkedIn. I have no idea who watches me on LinkedIn. Why would you watch me on LinkedIn? Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Yes. I have managed to return for a brief stream. AK, good to see you. Happy React 19. Boy, do I have a surprise for you, Ibra. We're going to do a little bit of React bashing. Yeah, we're going to do a little React bashing today. That's right. A little bit of C, but before we get to C, a little bit of React bashing. You can watch people on LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn right now. And if you go to my profile and give me a job, you can watch me. Ray on YouTube. Hey, how's it going, man? Good to see you, Ray. It's been a hot minute, Ray. I hope you're doing well. How's my professional life going? I've got contracts that are keeping me afloat, which I'm very grateful for. Probably one or two of the people who have given me the contract work might be watching this either now or later. Thank you for the work. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm very grateful for it because there are a lot of people who don't have work at all. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't been streaming very much, because I've just kind of been keeping quiet and doing my work to keep things going. That's about it. There you go. There's my professional life. But I hope you're doing all right, Ray. So, yeah. React 19, eh? Check it, boys. What's this? Nani? What's this? What's going on here? How am I allowed to stream with these opinions on React? I just do it. Yeah, they can't ban me. I'm unbannable. I just do it. I just bash React and then stream on LinkedIn. What are they going to do? So I thought it'd be fun to go over some of the comments here on Hacker News about React 19. Because boy, oh boy, are there some good comments. And I have to admit something. As much as I love the, the confirmation bias, the echo chamber of having people comment on posts like this and confirm for me what I think, which is that React is cancerous to society as a whole. I also do actually enjoy the arguments against what I'm saying. It helps keep me in check a little bit, because I realize that I can say that and somebody might have a much smarter, I don't know, comeback or whatever you want to say, counter argument as to why React isn't as bad as I think it is or whatever. So this stream because I have a few hours. What we're going to do is I just want to cover a bit of these React comments because I just think it's funny. And then I'm going to get into some C code. I actually do have, I'll give you a teaser. All right. I'll give you all a teaser. I'm building the boat ship chess game in C. So here we go, boys. And compiling to WebAssembly and the whole thing. So we'll get back into this. But first we have to make fun of React. So if I go back to this. Okay. I'm just going to read a few out. I haven't read through all of them. I read some and then I'm like, wait, I should save it. So I think this is 2 days old. So I've been saving some of these. Why do a lot of people here hate React so much? I started my engineering career with Laravel and plain.js. Now I was gonna how old is Laravel? 2011. All right. So we're talking about maximum. This guy's been around for 13 years, 12, 13 years. That's maximum, right? Okay. Anyways, after working with React, I've never seen anything like it. I feel like building scalable apps is achievable and front end is fun with it. Even when moving between different tech companies, working with React again is such a breeze and easy to pick up. On top of that, with the TypeScript support, huge community libraries, I feel like I can build and scale anything quite easily. This guy sounds like he was paid to do the commercial. Why are these new features scaring people away? We can still build with single page apps or the old ways. I don't think anyone complains when NoSQLDB was released or when Spring Boot was released in 2014. What about when Kotlin was released? We don't have to use them if you don't want it. Actually, I do remember when people complained when these things were released. I don't know where you were, but I remember the complaints. As a matter of fact, I jumped on the NoSQLDB bandwagon. All right, I was a huge NoSQL fan when it came out. I was one of them. I heard the complaints telling me that I've joined yet another cult. I'm like, no, I haven't. And here we are today. Weren't Jetpack Compose and Swift UI inspired by React? I saw it somewhere in the Android docs, and now it's probably deleted. I can't find it anymore. I once saw something that I think I saw, therefore I'm going to make an assertion that it was probably there, even though I can't prove that it was, but I think it was. But then again, I don't have a decade of experience in tech yet. Assuredly, when you do have a decade of experience, though, these statements will be even more true, not less true, right? I have no idea if building huge web apps, example Airbnb, using jQuery or plain.js with large teams is as enjoyable back then. My thought process has changed. I can't even think on how to solve the state management, DOM manipulation, side effects, etc. with plain.js anymore. Okay. He just self-defeated his own argument. And this is why I love this comment. It is the top comment of this Hacker News article, and he self-defeated his own argument. He can't even think how to solve state management, DOM manipulation, side effects with plain.js anymore. Explain to me why that's a good thing. Please tell me why using a framework that has effectively removed the fundamentals of how you might approach even just one of these fundamental topics is a good thing. Bro, it's good that I don't even need to think about fundamental aspects of what I'm doing because the thing does it for me. It's a good thing, bro. Source probably in a document I can't reference to anymore, bro. Nowadays, I just build on what I'm familiar with and focus on what I want to build. Who knows, maybe in the future, I will also complain about new frameworks and mention how good React was. Who knows? Nope, will never happen. Will never happen. Continued. Someone else, right? I also really don't get the apparent hate for React, usually from people who haven't used it all that much. Could possibly be true. The term usually could possibly be true here, but I think there are people who have used it all that much and do have complaints. I've interacted with a not insignificant number of people who seem to hold this opinion. Maybe that says something. Usually their arguments boil down to one of, front-end engineering is always chasing the next shiny thing, and React is one of them. There's probably some truth to this historically, but React has been a thing since 2013 and pretty mainstream since 2015 or so. Okay, my counter-argument to this would be that React is always changing, which we're about to see in further comments that I'm going to read. React continues to be shiny because it's not today what it was when it was originally created. As a matter of fact, every 1 to 2 years, something new gets introduced where it's re-shining, it's rebuffed. And so it looks like the new shiny new thing, it just has, like the commenter is saying here, approximately a decade's worth of whatever support and momentum going with it. So whenever it becomes re-shiny, people notice it a lot more than something that's new shiny. Frameworks and libraries add, quote, complexity. Yes, by definition, they add complexity. That is definitionally what frameworks and libraries do. You might think that your definition of complexity is, yeah, but I can be like the original commenter and not think about fundamental things, and that reduces complexity on my brain. Sure, but by definition, they add complexity to the thing with which you're using, not necessarily to how you interpret what you're using or how you break down what you're using in your brain. They are distinct things. But what you're doing is you're smuggling in both of these operations, perhaps even another definition of complexity that I kind of have a vague definition of, but I can't verbalize it right now. You're smuggling it all in and then putting it in quotes and making it think like the argument is saying, no, it doesn't add complexity. I almost never hear anything specific when I ask about what complexity they're referring to. I just kind of laid it out. It's definitional complexity. In my opinion, if you work on a non-trivial application without a framework, you'll just end up inventing your own poorly maintained, poorly tested, and poorly documented framework. There you go. So you're just exactly agreeing with what I'm saying, which is that depending on your definition of what is complexity, right, you can say that complexity is complexity or it's not, right? It depends on how you look at it. However, definitionally, what you're doing is you're adding layers upon layers of other people's code that you truly do not understand. Refer to, I can't even think on how to solve the state management DOM manipulation side effects with plain.js anymore. So refer to that. So what have you done what has replaced this thinking process? A different form of complexity. One, I would argue, that is not as good as having programmers who can think and solve state management DOM manipulation side effects of plain.js. This might be fine for a weekend project, but rarely something you should do at a company. Of course, because when you're surrounded by a quagmire of people who cannot think about fundamental things, and you're the only person in the room who can, yeah, you're probably going to want everyone else to be just as dumb as everyone else is so that you don't have to deal with the consequences, essentially. Everyone gets to be the same level of dumb. You get to wash your hands of it, right? So if you just equalize the playing field, yeah, everything's great. You should do that at a company because that's the only way to get by. But that also goes to company culture that programmers seem to just be fine working in. You get the paycheck, you play along dumb like everyone else. You don't think about the fundamental basics of what you're doing anymore. You just get to be as dumb as everyone else. You get the paycheck, everyone walks away happy. And as long as you don't rock the boat, and Ibra, I just noticed you were saying, like, you get a lot of flame for saying that this is a bad thing after Svelte 5. You're rocking the boat, right? And so this is what happens. You rock the boat and all the dum-dums around you go, why are you rocking the boat? We want to stay dumb brain. We want to not have to know what it's like to deal with this, right? Why are you ruining this for us? when in reality, they're ruining it for everyone else, including themselves. But anyways, people also often complain about compilation bundling step. Yes. Give me the quote where the creation of the web was intended to be a compilation process, where it was intended to be a compiled process. It has almost always worked as kind of like a hot reload. You make a change and it is instant. You just disseminate the change immediately and it's immediately rendered. It's almost like an immediate GUI system, just kind of like spread out to the whole world. I don't understand why you actually think it's okay to compile and bundle your front end. It was never intended to be that way. And if there's one thing I believe in, it's that when you go against nature, you do so at your own peril. The nature of the web was not meant to run it as a compiler, as if you're running C code, which we'll do later. This might have been harder to manage historically. I can agree with that. But now with battle-tested frameworks like Expo, Next.js, Meteor, etc., there are very few reasons to write a Webpack configuration or build pipeline by hand. How about you just don't have them at all? See what he's done here is he's assuming that it is a requirement. What the commenter has skipped is the entire argument of maybe you don't even need this step. But he's assuming that the step is needed, and then he's saying, herp, what are you going to do? Do it by hand? Dum-dum? No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you don't even need it in the first place. And let's not forget that on top of you don't need it in the first place, what are you bringing along? Because as soon as you start doing all of these things, what you're saying is pick this library, pick that library, take this off the shelf, whatever it is. I don't know what this code does. It's telling me that it's solving a problem. Just bring it in, pull it in, and whatever happens, happens. You are introducing potentially who knows what code onto your front end, onto your back end, whatever it is you're using it for. And we've already discussed on previous streams for enlightenedprogramming.com how cybersecurity, just security in general, is like the third, it's actually the third biggest economy in the world. And part of it, a huge part of it, is because people do not know what they're bringing in using all of these bundling and compilation steps. So the argument isn't if you need it, don't write it by hand. The argument is, why do you need it? Further comment. I hate to admit this, but for me, it's simply because I don't know the right pattern to use. That's fair. I'm a longtime backend developer that knows several useful and usable patterns on how to organize layers of code into files and functions and conventions that work very well. I've spent quite an amount of time on the front end to the point where I feel like I should have been able to identify a decent pattern by now, and I just haven't. And it's to the point that I started doubting whether the problem was really me or if it's a problem with the framework. I've read the revised React 18 docs backwards and forwards, and all the stuff about how you might not need use effect. And I've read countless articles about outer components and inner components and view components and higher order components and when to use context and when not to. And there's a point at which all the patterns start to collide and feel self-contradictory. It is because they are. Meanwhile, my team has a massive snarl of very large React components with all kinds of awful practices like nested contexts and use effect for state management, stuff I tried to cancel against for a while until I got promoted away from the team. I just couldn't find the best practice that the community actually agrees upon regarding how to refactor and design a complex website with many components with deep functionality. Granted, this is a legitimate you could say this is a legitimate reason why we would want to have something like React, because when you're dealing with a complicated site, and it's got a lot of stuff, it's deeply nested, and you gotta, keep things managed. If you've actually ever done that, the arguments of people who are like, have you ever actually done anything complex? You're gonna want React. You're not gonna roll your own. I get it. I can understand that. The issue is that that React takes this to a completely different level, and it has become the staple of how to take things to an incorrect level to solve problems that don't need to be solved, particularly in this way. I feel this. I think it's a consequence of React being a fairly unopinionated collection of tools. Coming from a Rails background, it's pretty jarring. It's like the difference between being told, here's how you build a house, and here's how you use the tools in this toolkit. React offers more freedom at the expense of guidance, and you get much less standardization as a result. This is exactly why I love it, because it's not opinionated. I've been doing front-end interfaces for 30 years, and it's one of the few times I've felt that I can write things the way I want and not be forced down some pre-constructed path. Now, I can kind of agree that this is actually like a good thing. I get why some wouldn't like this, but for me, it's a breath of fresh air and why I continue to love working with it. But I don't actually think that's what's happening. I think it makes you feel like that's what's happening. It gives you a sense of freedom, not because you actually have that freedom. What it's doing is okay. It's like this. This is what React does. You're hungry, okay? Like you're starving. You've got two choices. You can either order one of those meal prep kits where all the individual parts of a meal come to your door, and then you cook them all. You read the instructions, you cook them all, and you get a nice home cooked meal at the end, and then you get to be not hungry. Or you can go to a restaurant and have it prepared for you in the back, and you just pick what you want, and it's done for you. And then you don't even have to deal with dishes. React is the restaurant. And it makes you feel like you're in charge of the kitchen because you're telling them what to do. That's what that's like. That's what's happening here. And then you get to go, oh man, it's great that I didn't have to go down some pre-constructed path to get food in my mouth. Agreed. On reread, my prior comment sounds almost negative towards React's lack of opinions. That couldn't be further from the truth. While I appreciated having a path laid out for me when I stated out, 10 years in, I much prefer forging a path myself. Mastering these tools and leveraging my own creativity and how I use them is much more enjoyable. Thanks both. You've inspired me to push on with learning React Native. Going to be a fun weekend. Holy crap, what a jump. We've gone from React on the front end to, wow, you've inspired me to learn React Native. Well, all right. Okay. I actually agree with this having been a problem. I think the root cause of this is React not really being a framework, rather just a library that allows you to write declarative code involving state that in the end outputs a DOM tree. In my opinion, it does that quite well. Why does it need to do that? It doesn't have very many opinions on how you should structure your code, how you should organize your state, how your routing logic should work, etc. I think that's where frameworks come in. React was quite popular long before frameworks like Next, Meteor, Remix becoming mainstream, causing lots of developers to invent their own properly maintained frameworks. In deference of the haters, I think we've all seen our share of horrendously organized React spas. Okay, look, you can have horrendously organized anything, okay? Dependency hell, seemingly infinite prop drilling, components, thousands of lines long, the list goes on. I mean, these are true. You can see bad things in anything. It's kind of difficult to have this argument hold water. Some people think they hate React, when in reality, they hate a specific implementation of it. Maybe. Okay. So, I really like this one. I contracted on a few different projects over a few years, with React involved in all of them. Each team had their way of doing something, and goodness me, each team I joined was way different than the previous one with respect to approach, style, testing, etc. And anything I did that was wrong, meaning not to their particular approach, I was belittled or talked down to as if I was some imbecile. This is cult-like behavior. This is how a cult operates, where they other you. You either do things their way and you agree with them, otherwise you're kind of like an outcast. In a couple of cases, I used an approach with Company B that they discarded a year before, but 6 months earlier, my work with Company's A team led us adopting that same approach with decent results. But Company B knew better, saying that approach was crap, but looking at their own internal docs 2 years earlier, it was the hottest approach. I was shocked at how much time some teams spent on reinventing wheels rather than using some off-the-shelf components. We need everything to be done in-house so we can document it and have full control. But designing all your own widgets is going to take months. React makes it so easy though, so don't worry. We know what we're doing, yet they didn't. Untestable components that couldn't support what the original requirements called for months earlier, etc. You know how people crap on PHP because there's so much bad PHP out there, but others say it's just how you use it. Frameworks XYZ are great. I feel the same way about React. There's probably some great examples out there, but I somehow tend to see a lot of lesser quality stuff. Most of the use cases I've seen up close, there wasn't any real magic or benefit to React for something else, but everyone was jacked to get more React experience on their resume for their next gig. It didn't really matter if the resulting output was good or not, just that they used React. Yeah, you're just going for the paycheck. As long as you grab that money and you get that investment dollar, who cares about what the consequences are to yourself, to your colleagues, or to the industry downstream? I don't hate React, it's a library. I'm tired of much of the B team players requiring it to be considered professional while simultaneously eschewing testing and documentation. For people who have chosen it, get to stay on the same project for several years, honing their skills on one code base and iteratively improving. Great. Enjoy. So this person was talking about how they you have to kind of make your own decisions and don't take a lot of things too seriously, etc. There's a few other good comments. Let me just see. This one I think got me. Show me one performant and nice React app. Even the creator can't. And I have to admit that some of these, okay, if you take a look at some of these, if you actually I don't know, let's say use memos, that opened up really fast. And if we go to the live demo, okay, it's okay. It wasn't the fastest. What about Excalidraw? That loaded up pretty fast. I can just start drawing right away, So I actually, this kind of, I'm oh, I never thought to ask if there's a performant, nice React app, and there's a few here, right? So that kind of throws a wrench in things because it's okay, so you can do it. So then this comment, every single React has the ability to be nice and performant. The issue, and this isn't React's fault, is that every single web app is so obsessed with measuring analytics and engagement metrics and loading multiple ad containers and I actually have to agree with this, that if you look at least load times in terms of how long it takes a page to load, there are certain sites where a decent chunk of it is ad tracking stuff, as opposed to they could use vanilla JavaScript and it would still take a while to load because of all the ad tracking mechanisms that they have in it, right? So this is actually also a good counter argument to my viewpoint on React. It's something I hadn't considered. But even in that case, people are making arguments it can still be fast. Sometimes it's just the initial load. You can end up still having a fast page, with interactivity with React, and it can still look nice. Yep, this is clearly all true. It is possible. Okay, so they talk about this a little more. This one I liked, which is something that other people have made arguments for. The vast majority of websites don't need to be apps at all. A few do, but these generally need to be tailor-made anyways. So that the idea here is we let companies overcomplicate what they're actually trying to present. And you can actually do this personally. I think he sends that. He says, oh, you want to put your CV online? Sure. Let's spend the next 3 weeks plotting out the state flow diagram for your app. Okay, programmers do this too. How could the industry not do this? It's a common mistake. You what are you actually trying to represent on a website? Do you actually need to have a bunch of crazy reactivity, etc., that you need a framework for? This is a good argument. And then, somebody was saying like, well, if you do, then React is a good choice and yada, yada, yada. Okay. Keep going. Arguments about whether you do need that or whatever. Okay. So people are having complaints about React hooks. Yep. Yeah, somebody like I've spent the last 3 decades building websites and web apps, and I agree with you. I don't find alternatives as appealing as React. I mean, this holds some weight if you've spent 30 years doing it and you like React. Maybe there's something to this, right? Framework exhaustion could be a reason why some people hate React. True. This one I liked because it kind of talks about the reality of things. So this is the reality of things. Most people who are watching, whether it's the stream right now or they watch this video later, they're not typically working at a big operation. They're not working at a FANG company, right? They're probably working at like a small to medium sized shop. I hate it because of announcements like this. We are a small team just getting to terms with React 18. A lot of libraries still are not working well with it, and there's 19 already. It sucks. This is what Angular did. And it like tanked companies when Angular moved to, I can't remember the version. It might have been from 3 to 4 maybe, or 2 to 3. I can't remember. So yeah, nothing wrong with the concept of React, just the usual and terrible JavaScript ecosystem churn with stuff we don't need. But now everyone will have to update, and so do we. Nice if you have a dedicated front-end team for every one of your apps. Not so nice for a small team that has to manage many apps across many clients. I like major potentially compatibility breaking updates every 10 years or so, not every 3 weeks. So yeah, we went off React to Vanilla.js, HTMX, and LiveView type stuff, which makes this all far simpler. Dev is also far simpler for us. All the pitfalls are no longer there. There might be some advantages to React in some cases. We won't look back. We never had a more relaxed team, especially since we ditched Next and React. The trying out of other tech for front end made us realize React was wrong for us all along anyway. Your mileage may vary, of course. React 18 was released in March 2022, though. It's been over 2 years, not 3 weeks. I've also actually thought the React team is pretty careful about breaking changes. Their 19 breaking changes doc is mostly about removing already deprecated APIs. So there's 2 things missing. 2 years can seem like 3 weeks when it takes a long time for you to come up to speed with a particular version. So just because it's been around 2 years, what you're entirely dismissing is that a small team might need that runway in order to come up to speed with that version. And it could entirely be no fault of their own, just the amount of finances and size of team. And even though they may be careful about breaking changes, they do still have breaking changes. And just because it's a deprecated API doesn't mean it's a non-used API. Refer back to what I was saying, which is 2 years can seem like a long time. Someone can be stuck in deprecated API land and have a bunch of dependencies thanks to bundling and compilation steps that make it easy to have a million dependencies that go along with that and be stuck there. And then those dependencies move to React 18, to React 19, etc. And you can't, because you just don't have that bandwidth. So you can't move along with it, which means now you're just left holding the bag on what a huge team didn't finish in the version that you started with. I guarantee rebuilding your whole site in HTMX was more effort than installing React 18 when it came out about 3 years ago. I'd also venture that this was a back-end dominated decision to take control of the full stack. This is quite the statement. This is quite the assertion here. You can guarantee me that, Roberto and Red, and Fist McGee, you can both guarantee me that this is what's happening. Guaranteed. You'll put money on it. HTMX is over. Okay, so then there's like people who say there's like a good, some good alternatives. Okay, this is one of the last comments I'll read because we could spend all day reading comments here. This one kind of like hits a bit closer to how I feel, just a little bit closer to how I feel. Hang on, I need to have a sip of coffee. Let me see what's going on with the chat. I still write my own JS. Hey, Moldy on YouTube. Sorry I missed you, bud. No frameworks, no TypeScript, just straight ECMA. Yeah. Keeps everything client as minimal as possible. Yeah. Hang on, let me see. Complicated stuff is actually hard. Surprise Pikachu, yeah. Hit the wall so hard he bounced at 180, yeah. Yes, Joe Dim, we're bullying React. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, Imperious. I missed you on YouTube. Hey, Marco on X. We should put React into the browser spec. Marco, I'm going to ban you forever. Ibra, not anymore. Are you working at Fang? 100% true. I can confirm because it's exactly what's been happening the past month to me. Jodim, that sucks. I have been there several times. It is a crappy place to be, to have to deal with. You are left holding the bag on an older version. I think that's what you're referring to. I've been ignoring chat. This is what I felt for Svelte project at work. I can totally see that. Yeah. I feel the same way about Vue. Svelte 4 got good and then Svelte 5 ruined everything for no pragmatic gain at all. Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way about Vue. Hey, everybody on Rumble. I don't know if people are watching me on Rumble, but if you're there, hey. Yeah, I feel the same way about Vue and Tailwind. Tailwind did this too. When Tailwind came out with like I think it was just version 1 and I think version 2 did this as well. You just essentially had like a CSS file. Like you could essentially break the entire like or funnel down the entire Tailwind system into a CSS file. And then you could pick and choose what you wanted out of that CSS file. And then they added so much. They like included the kitchen sink with CSS and JS and everything like that. And now Tailwind becomes the same thing as front-end web. You have to build it. You have to build it and compile it, which is crazy to me that you have to do that for a CSS framework. Yeah, is that right, Jodim? That sucks. Polymer 1 and 2, Bower, JS were right all the time. Marco, you're getting banned. I don't know how to do that on X. Okay, I'm going to read this comment now. I hate it because when I take it, instead of UI programming, I now have to satisfy some absurd ideas about how functional async meta higher effect BS should work. Yes, Marco, see, this is the thing. I know you're actually serious. I shouldn't have left chat up there. I know you're serious, Marco. I wholeheartedly disagree with you. We both know that we disagree with each other. I think it's a ridiculous take to have React as part of the browser spec. It's completely unnecessary. You want to destroy the industry, whether you think so or not. I don't actually want to ban you, but I do kind of want to ban you, Marco. Okay? I kind of want to ban you. All right? You're asking for it. Dear Lord. Okay, I'm ignoring Marco on X. All I need is to process events and update my model, not some convoluted async representation of it smeared across visual elements and their lifetimes, from which something would update control values and text blocks. That's not literally all I need, obviously, but I don't need React nonsense in my way. In case anyone curious what I'm using, see Mithril JS. Also, React uses or promotes web hostile anti-features like document level event handling and virtual scrolling, which are a pain in the ass from a DevTool tinkerer's perspective. Use action state is a new hook to order actions inside of a transition with access to the state of the action and the pending state. It accepts a reducer that can call actions and the initial state used for first render. It also accepts an optional string that is used if the action is passed to a form action prop to support progressive enhancement in forms. Delusional gobbledygook. Can someone tell me, I just out of curiosity, like, okay, I live in British Columbia, and one thing that my province here in Canada is known for, we like to give away narcotics for free to just like anybody who wants them. You know, like if you, if you're having a problem, you can come get it for free here. That's kind of what's been decided in British Columbia. Which of these free drugs do I need to go get in order to come up with a sentence as incoherent and incomprehensible for anything related to front end as what I just read? Can someone just tell me which? Because I'm sure I could just run out and go get it, and then I could just come up with one of these. Because this sounds like a good one. How do you read this? I just don't understand how you read the sentence and you go, yeah, this is okay. You were serious about the Polymer and Bauer part? Okay, Marco, fair. All right, fair, I'll back off. Yes, I'm Canadian. Crocodile, I wouldn't recommend it. Thanks, Salco. I appreciate the look out there. Yeah, I just don't understand. This makes no sense. I actually think this is one of those cases where if you didn't know anything about programming and you read this, these 1, 2, 3 sentences, and you went, huh? I think a lot of people would agree. Okay, so then the response on the absurdity. Could you elaborate on this? I'm not sure what an async meta hire effect is. Reading in between the lines, though, I suspect you're talking about state management. You might benefit. Get this, folks. Listen. I just want. Okay, I'm going to read the sentence first, and then I'm going to try and summarize my uncharitable take on this. I suspect you're talking about state management. You might benefit from one of many state management solutions out there. Redux, MobX, Legend State, etc. Keeping and passing around local states spread out across lots of components can get unwieldy pretty quick. Yay Jose here is essentially saying, listen, bro, I heard you're using React, bro. And I heard that you're having a problem, bro, that React caused for you, bro. I've got a solution for the problem I created for you, bro. Another library. Bro, let me add some more problems because I heard you had problems and I've got solutions to the problems, which are just more problems. Hey, got a problem we created? Just pull in another problem. Problem solved. Why didn't I think of that? This is mafia talk. I just want to be clear. This is mafia talk. Hey, it'd be a real shame if something was to happen to your store. Huh? Unless a weekly fee was to end up at our doorstep. Huh? And then maybe your store would be safe, huh? That's what this is. This is mafia talk. State solutions solve a self-imposed problem. With Mithril, I just do whatever I want because it doesn't dictate shape or behavior to my data. I don't have to pass it around except naturally and eventize up and down because it's easily accessible and lives outside of a vnode element tree, although data can be put into vnode if it really belongs to its graphical state, which would make no sense in its absence. Example, current uncommitted value of an input. Benefit from Redux. Had a good laugh. Yeah, so did we. I imagine writing a hierarchical reducer every time I have to update X. It's unengineering of over-engineering. So I really like this. This kind of told me a lot of what I needed to know, which is that React causes problems that has created the need to create solutions which in and of themselves are just more problems. And it does so under the guise of, look what you don't have to worry about. In exchange for what? Right. Now, this is full of good comments, honestly, in both directions. there is definitely some elitism from people who hate React. Yes, absolutely. I can agree with that. Okay. I'm victim to thinking that I'm somehow better because I don't use React. Okay. And I try not to think that way. I try and actually make some arguments that have some grounding, although that's really difficult to do. Um, it's really hard to get into front end now, especially when React does change so often. Here's another thing about the whole 2-year thing. So if you go back to the person who wrote the comment, yeah, but React 18 was released in 2023. That's 2 years, right? But anybody who came out of a boot camp or a computer science degree, let's say, that included React, such as it was at the time, is now out of date. They had 2 years and it's out of date, and that's it. They're like, there's enough changes that they essentially have to go through a mini boot camp or a mini degree so that they can get up to date. And 2 years is not a long time, especially if you spent a lot of money going through the education of going through React 18, and now you have to go through a re-education and spend the same amount of money. And I believe someone actually said that. Yeah, here we go. React keeps changing its abstractions, idioms, and best practices every 2 years. The boot camps and consultancies love it. It keeps the churn going and the money coming in. Yeah. Because these people who spent money and whatever have to come back, right? 19 had enough changes where you're like, well, I guess like I'm out of date now. I have to go back and learn stuff because it's different enough. Maybe it's not entirely different, but it's different enough that I can't run on what I know with 18 completely. So it just completely screws you over. So like, so anyways, there's a lot of, some people are talking about like functional programming. HTMX is mentioned a lot. Let's go. Somebody's like, no good component or UI libraries for HTMX. That's not really the point of HTMX. You've completely missed the point of HTMX. If you think that you need to have UI libraries or whatever, that's completely the point. So there's some really good stuff here. They're talking about virtual DOM. That's one of the things I hate the most. The main issue is React forces you to tell it which components to re-render. This causes a bloat of ceremony that makes it endlessly annoying in comparison to global redraws to write in. Maybe but there's definitely like some unnecessary stuff with VDOM that you don't need anymore, etc. So anyways, that's all. There's lots more. I could go on about this for a long time. It's fun. It's fun to read it. The code about the counter, I think this is just great. I really love this example of the handlers in Vue. This works. Counter is 0. Code only runs once. This code only runs when some ref changes, so it's just a watcher. You do a counter increment, console log it so you can see it. Here's an empty function. Normal functions are stable. Here's a second function, stable as well. Then JS and DOM work with the same conceptual model. So you've got a handler that's directly on the element. You allocate it once, just like in the view up here. You execute only this handler code, which comes from the on-click event on that button handler, and then this is only allocated once as well. So then you would think that something as trivial as this in React should work, but it does not work. It does not work. This looks... crap, where'd it go? Here. Damn it. Here, this looks like it's going to work great in React, right? Because the entire app function gets invoked again. So you have to use hooks to move state out of the path of the component function, out of the path of whatever component is this, because the entire component function is reinvoked. I had to think about that for a second. I'm not even entirely sure I think I kind of understand what's going on, but it's crazy that anyways, this is a simple example, to be granted. It's really easy to pick out simple examples and go, ha ha ha, look at how stupid it is. But, anyways. Oh, and then the last thing, React compiler. Listen, React compiler is the it's basically the equivalent to Jehovah's Witnesses waiting for Armageddon. So if you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, they are waiting for Armageddon, because in Armageddon, what happens is Jehovah, the God of the universe, that's his name, Jehovah. Okay, he's going to, him and his son Jesus will come to the earth with their entire angelic force. They will absolutely destroy, like literally murder and kill. I guess it wouldn't be murder because it would be divine. So it would be like justifiable life taking. You know, it's a distinction, right? So they would take the life of anybody who decided that they were not going to essentially like affirm the divinity of the creator of the universe. So they were going to end the lives of all these people. And then on top of all the dead bodies, any surviving Jehovah's Witness who would receive protection during this Armageddon period would then get to stand on top of the bodies, clean up the earth, remove the bodies, and then you usher in 1,000 years of peace, where the entire earth is managed solely by Jesus, the Son of God, and those 1,000 years are going to be, a way to compare the last 6,000 plus years of human history, and then at the end of the 1,000 years, you're going to go, hey, isn't it better now? Like, aren't things better in the last 1,000 years than they were when humans were just doing whatever the hell they wanted to and essentially ignored God and everything that he wanted from humans? And then you're going to say, of course it's better, and then peace and, and whatever until eternity. This is what I hear when people talk about the compiler in this thread. It's their Armageddon. It is Armageddon will come and God will save us all. We are the chosen ones. We are the React witnesses. We are the chosen ones. And when the compiler, Armageddon, comes, the rest of you will die. And on your bodies, you will see that all the issues we've had with React will disappear. And we will usher in a new age, a new era, 1,000 years of peace, because we now have a React compiler to compile our front end. That's what this sounds like. I'm hoping the compiler turns out a success. Yeah, why? Why? React compiler is in beta. It will result in significant change in the DX for using React. Yeah? But why? I thought React was good. Wait, why do you need a compiler? And so here we go. Yeah, for the last decade or so, frontend has felt like standing on shifting sands. In part, it's the ecosystem and entangled dependencies, but also because JS frameworks are really still figuring it out. A couple of years ago, I was hoping we'd reach some sort of stable plateau, but it just keeps going. The DOM is slow, we need a VDOM. The VDOM wasn't such a good idea. Signals with fine-grained reactivity is really the solution for DOM updates. Oh wait, but now we need a compiler. Oh wait, there's too much JS now. We better move stuff to the server and do SSR with full page hydration. Maybe full page hydration wasn't such a good idea. We now need islands, etc. Don't get me wrong, each of these steps makes total sense. I would add in a vacuum, but we're getting into this uber complex solution that involves so much access to the whole stack, across the whole stack. And it's not even clear to me that running JS in a servers was such a good idea to begin with. It was not. It is not. It is not a good idea. It is a ridiculous idea. So like, it's a cult. It's just what it is. The compiler will save us. Armageddon will come and Jehovah will kill all the unbelievers and we will be the ones left. The compiler is our Armageddon. And then you will all see the 1,000 years of peace from the React compiler. Yes. All hail React. Like, that's all this is. Where's my library in HTMX to make a button? Yeah, kill, not murder. Right. Hey, Vampire on YouTube. Yeah, Wheel Reinvention Clown Show. That's right, Vampire. Good to see you, Vampire. Scissor hands. DOM has never been slow. It's a lie. I agree. That's why now. That's why I'm building my game. I'm just building a little game for myself. I'm using C, compiling to WebAssembly, and then rendering on just div elements with vanilla CSS and JS, because I don't think it's as slow as people make it out to be. And I want to prove that not only can I run an actual, like, reasonably good 2D game using this method, but I'm actually going to put in CSS 3D, which a lot of people think is also slow, but it's not. It's not as slow as you think it is. You're probably just too stupid. VDOM is just code to make people feel clever. It doesn't actually solve any problems with the DOM. Yeah, Scissorhands on YouTube. Yes, I agree. I don't think I've seen you around before, Scissorhands, but welcome in. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It's not a problem that needs a solution. And I actually argue that it has never been slow. It has never been slow. There's a article that I have from I can't remember where it is. I can find it, but it's from 2012, and somebody built a sprite like animation thing in an iframe that just uses div elements and CSS animations, and you just add sprites, which is just div elements, and essentially they just let you go wild. You just set the number of sprites that you want to put on, which is just div elements. And then it just animates them all, moves them around the screen. It's super fast. And you could do like 30,000 sprite elements before you start hitting a frame rate drop below 30, I think it is. I have it on previous streams too. Jodim, we will kill the good developers, so there will be the good developers. That's right. That's right, Jodim. Scissorhands on YouTube. To be honest, there are no problems with the DOM. Rendering problems are due to the CSSOM, which nobody ever speaks about. That's true, Scissorhands. Yeah. And if you understand that problem, you can actually work around that. Like you actually are able to work. You are actually able to work around CSSOM. You can do that. Vampire, I don't think anyone claimed that vanilla JS and CSS is slow unless they meant slow development. No, not necessarily that vanilla JS and CSS is slow. Vanilla DOM, like the document object model, or like I think that's what it means. So the DOM would be the XML that represents the structure of a page, right? And so adding event listeners, like if somebody clicks on a div here. Let's say we do this, right? If somebody clicks on this element, that would be a DOM element that has an event listener attached to it. If you wanted to remove this element or move it somewhere, you have to re-render a bunch of the DOM, a bunch of these like elements essentially in the tree, and that can be slow. It can be slow, but it is not as slow as the propaganda would like to have you believe. Propaganda aimed at, hey, come join our cult. We've solved this problem. Declaratively augmenting HTML is the way to go. Marco on X. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Anyway, okay, that's it. That's it. That's what I wanted to get through because I thought it'd be fun. That'd be a fun thing. I wasn't showing my screen, by the way. I was not showing my screen. Vampire, this is what I was talking about with the DOM elements. Okay, it's like this. There, I'll actually show you my screen. So it's like this tag here that's highlighted. That would be a DOM element. It's like XML. And like if I move this around, then the browser has to like re-render a bunch of stuff to make it render properly. And that's the part that React was like, hey, we'll solve it for you by letting you import a bazillion things and running JavaScript on the server and, all the other stuff we talked about. It's stupid. What do you mean, Ibra? Gotcha? Yeah. Wait, what? No way. What do you mean, Ibra? What do you mean no way? What are you wondering about? What you got? I'm just shooketh that it's this bad. What's this bad? Like React or like the state of front end libraries? Is that what you mean? Or yeah, the server side rendering stuff is kind of wacky. Reactive JS is useful for admin sections, not front page stuff. Yeah, that's right, Vampire. That's actually, this is really good. Yes, I agree. Reactive JS is useful for admin areas. Yeah, because administrators will actually do. Yeah, I think you nailed it, Vampire. I think that's a great use case. Administrative users will do things that interact with the data that is being represented to external users far more than external users interact with that same data. Does that make sense? Right? So Vampire is correct, because an administrator needs to deal with far more in a far more comprehensive fashion than a front end user. And they're going to need reactivity to be able to do things like, what if I want to drag and drop something because I need to create an association that ultimately a front end user doesn't actually like care how that ends up happening. They don't care if it's cached. They don't care if it's React. They don't care if it comes from a server. But I care as the administrative user. Therefore, I would want some reactive JS stuff to help me administrate that. I think that's banger, Vampire. That's great. Swallows links. X swallows links? Maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, admins don't need pages to be indexed. That's right. Yeah, it's CRUD stuff. Yeah, then I could see a case for like, hey, maybe then you do want something more complicated. That's right. Maybe you do need more reactivity. Maybe this element does need to have like, I can drag it and it's got to be like whatever. Have you tried interviewing coders? I have. I've had to hire and fire. For large teams, for very large teams, and like just for myself, like just working side by side, 1 or 2 people. So like not a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but I've done it. Yeah, it's pretty bad, Ibra. Yeah, shooketh that it's this bad. React. Yeah. Sharing it here. Oh, thanks, AH. AH is Marco on X. Declarative custom elements strawman. Okay. Here's one approach for the declarative syntax. Interviewing for your streams. Oh, have I interviewed coders? I have. I've done 1 or 2 that I really like, that I enjoyed, that were good interviews. They are up. They're older, from like earlier this year or last year. They're up on my lives on YouTube. But I would like to do more. It's just difficult to find people who I want. Let's just say it's difficult to find people who I would want to interview. If you want to be interviewed, Vampire, hit me up, because I know you. I know you off stream. So hang on, let me just read this real quick. Here's one approach. We have not necessarily come to a conclusion as to whether this is the best approach. The proposed template instantiation. We imagine an HTML syntax to define a custom element. Okay, so you define one. It's a custom element with a template. You have a script. It defines the element. Okay, it specifies a name and a constructor. We look up the constructor and then fall back to the global scope. Okay, technically won't work since a class statement doesn't yield a value according to UCMA 2017. So then you export it, and then you create a shadow tree. This is the default for a private variable. So this is the same thing as a regular web component. This looks very similar, at least. So it looks like what you're doing is you're defining a custom web component, but declaratively inside your HTML. which kind of under the hood uses a web component that you might do manually, because I recognize a lot of this with like the shadow root, and you go grab a template and you clone the node. I don't think it's doing a clone node, but it's probably doing something similar here. And once you've cloned the node, then you like insert the whatever you're going to represent in the web component. And so then here you have like a templating system. That's what like the double brackets are. And so you theoretically you could pass in JavaScript variables that get passed in here. And so there you go. Here's your progress bar showing 20%. And you'd have like that, right? So it would read from the element in question, something along those lines. I'm kind of cursory going through it. Okay. So I think I understand. I'd have to read this a bit more. I don't know well, maybe this might be an improvement over just regular web components. Call in show like Jim Bob does. Yeah, I'm up, but you got to pick a topic. You know what the problem is, Vampire? I'm just going to be straight up honest. I do not have enough viewers. Nobody gives a shit. There are a few, and I really appreciate the regulars. Like I have a few people on YouTube who come on regularly, which is great. On Twitch as well. I occasionally get people on X like Marco, but I don't get the viewership to have that kind of pull. So if you're up for it, which it seems like you are, I'll think of a topic. And maybe we'll shoot the breeze. On something, do a little mini interview thing, just like trash talk something, have a bit of fun, whatever. I wish I could have something that would be like that I could count on more consistently, like at least someone would show up if I opened it up, but I just don't have enough people. I don't stream enough. I don't have enough viewership, so it's something I got to work on. The instantiation part is the important one. You instantiate the template before upgrading, enabling you to essentially do basic server-side rendering for web components. Oh, I see. Right. So this is similar to what you were showing me before, I think, Marco, where you could literally just attach a shadow root to the body. I think you were doing something like that. I think I actually took that and I ran with it for something. I can't remember. And it worked. And you could just dynamically inject HTML, and it would treat it as you could treat it as like a template or like a new template, or you could deal with it a lot more dynamically, and everything would fit into the right slots and things like that. It's in a similar vein. You could limit your JS parts to interactivity. Yeah, you can do both together. It's synergetic. Interesting. Yeah. Maybe it's good to do a random call-in show to begin with, and when viewership rises, you can do structured interviews. I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm not opposed to the idea. I just have a random call-in show. Honestly, if anybody wants to just jump on and talk about anything, they're welcome to at any time. I've done that before. I'll just be like, hey, you want to jump on? Like we seem to be chatting in chat. Why don't you just come on a Discord call? I have zero issues with that. Yeah. So I don't mind doing that. Maybe I'll put it in the title of my next stream or something, like you can call in, something like that. It's good, Vampire. And you're right. If my viewership ever rises, I have no idea if it ever will, then yeah, I can do structured interviews. I would love to do structured interviews, because I think what happens is, hey, Travis, one sec, bud, one sec, hold tight. Because I think what happens here, okay, hot take, I'm going to say a lot, not every, okay? I want to be clear. Not every, but a lot of tech streamers do like circle jerk interviews. They just interview each other. And you end up, I get it, it's good for exposure. Not everyone has the same audience. That's great. But you end up not hearing much of a differing opinion on important topics in tech that I really care about, for example, and that I think a few people who watch me also care about. Otherwise, I guess why would they watch me, right? For the 14 or like 20 of us or however many there are, 24, it says right there, right? Like we obviously we care about some things. It'd be great to hear differing opinions, because I find what a lot of, again, a lot, not all, a lot of tech streamers, whether they do like game tech, like game programming or whatever, excluding Travis is one of the standout ones. I just want to be very, very freaking clear. Travis is like a goat. Like, he's not one of these people. Okay. So if I completely exclude Travis from all criticism here. But what they'll do is they will focus on things that are like the most popular things. And that's essentially what they'll kind of shill for. Maybe not shill, but they'll focus on those because, of course, why wouldn't you? It gets the most eyeballs, right? So you're going to focus on the topics that, like, I've heard them a million times. They're not really relevant to me, or in some cases, they're actually detrimental to the industry. And I would much rather talk to like someone like Vampire, for example, or Travis. Travis, I should do an interview with you too, if you'd be up for it, like an actual structured interview. Like I should do a structured interview with Vampire, because I know Vampire off stream. He's dope as hell. He's based, he actually cares about tech. He's built some of his own cool stuff. Maybe I'll show it off on another stream, Vampire, if you're cool with it. He's built some really cool stuff. We're working on a project together. Travis, same thing, right? Like, these are the people I want to hear from, because they have they have a different viewpoint on things that you don't get to hear when you get the circle jerk route. That's what I'm calling it. It's the circle jerk route. It's the tour. It's the circle jerk tour. And then they get the awards and they just give each other awards, and then they're like, yeah. Yeah. Obviously not every tech streamer is like that. And there's a few other ones I can think of. Melky's another good one. Melkey. I should give a shout out to Travis while he's here, because you should be following him on Twitch and YouTube as well. If you're not, because it's like, it's day and night watching Travis do what he does. How's the game going? I'm about to get to it. How long till I rewrite it in C? Stubborn as a goat, struggling to talking English, but it'd be cool to listen to. Sounds like the Travis guy should be followed. He should be followed. Yeah, okay, you'd be down for an interview? Okay. I'll figure it out. I'll talk to you in Vampire, because that's a good idea, Vampire. Ever hear of one of the first indie games, Dr. Lethal? No, I have not. I don't think I know what you're referring to. It's called Funny Pizza Land. Why does that sound familiar? From 2002. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Funny Pizza Land from 2002. Okay. Watch. Dr. Lethal is the one that made it. Watch it. Watch. I don't think he's been here before. I'm not sure he's been here before. Watch. It's like, yeah, I made that. That's all. I just came here to drop it. Free advertising. No, you're not? Okay. Are you bringing it up for for a specific reason? Just a cool piece of history? Okay, cool. As long as it's not the Pizza Dude game. Right? Yes. As long as it's not the Pizza Dude game. I agree. So, hey, Travis, since you're here, I don't know when you have to go. It's okay, but the only thing I want to show you. And not only have I started doing it, but Travis, What? Hang on, Travis. Hang on. Where is it? Damn it. Where is it? Damn it. I'm getting performance issues. Performance issues. Here. Yeah. What is it? What does it kind of look like I'm doing here? What's it kind of look like I'm doing? What's it kind of look like I'm doing here, Travis? Buddy old pal? Buddy old pal? Huh? Handles. Performance issues. I'm using handles. You stayed awake for the rant. Thanks, Zebra. Go get some sleep, man. 1:40 a.m. Looks like real code. That's right. It's a thing of beauty. Yeah. Thanks, Zebra. Get some sleep, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I've got the handling system, I think, sorted out. So essentially what I'm doing is it's just a flat array of... The code smells nice. Thank you. Doesn't look thread safe. I don't really need to worry about it because I'm compiling to WebAssembly. So it's just flat arrays. So it's actually pretty thread safe. I think. Travis will correct me if I'm wrong because he knows. But I'm pretty sure that because it's WebAssembly and it's all flat arrays, there's no dynamic allocation. I don't think I really have to worry about thread safety. Damn, Vampire, you're making me feel less confident about it. I'll wait for Travis to weigh in. But yeah, I've just got flat arrays of a handle system, so I can have my resources live in and of themselves, and then point to them exactly like what you were talking about, Travis, where you just point to them not through actual pointers, but just through unique IDs. I don't think there's an issue unless you're using web workers. Yeah, with web workers, this could be an issue, but I'm not using web workers. Going to try and learn coding so you can become a game dev. Nice. You must be new to it then, Dr. Lethal. Although I wouldn't use statics. Really? You wouldn't use statics? Why not? I just want a flat array. Like, I just want a pre-allocated static flat array. Why not? If it's WASM, you're probably not using multiple threads anyways. Yes, that's right, Vampire. Yeah. I would have to... I think there is a way I could do it, and I think web workers is that way. Because essentially what you do is you spin off extra processes that execute your WASM, and then technically that could be considered like multiple threads inside of your browser, but I'm not even doing that. So this is just a single threaded, everything's pre-allocated flat, and then I just slice up the data and index into it. I'm curious why you wouldn't use... I guess for WASM it's not as big a deal, but statics also get in the way of things like hot reloading, thread safety too. But we already said that's not an issue here. Yeah, I don't really need hot reloading, and I'm not using multiple threads. So I think it's okay. I don't think I have to worry about those issues here. Why don't I use structs? I don't know if with web workers you have access to the same WASM. You can have access to the same WASM, but what you have to do is you use a shared array buffer, and it's a way to pass what it's called. It's a buffer of data between web workers. So you'd have to extract some data, put it into the shared array buffer, and then pass it around to each worker, and then they could all access the same data. Why don't I use structs? Okay, so this is something I made like a self-limited decision. I do have structs. If I look at down here, I started out with structs. I don't know, string struct. Sure. Like, okay. So I have like, here's a pool of strings, right? This was my original implementation, which I'm keeping here because I'm rewriting what I did. Essentially, I converted all my Odin code into C. And then I got to a certain point. I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable. I know what I'm going to do with C. But this isn't how I actually want to do it in C. How I wanted. This is one thing that got me with Odin. Odin made the promise like, hey, if you're writing Odin, you're writing C. That didn't turn out to be true. I converted it to C and it worked. But the way in which I wanted to write this game in Odin is not the same way I want to write it in C. So what I'm doing is not using structs in C. And the reason why is because structs have a little bit of overhead and they kind of pigeonhole me into this paradigm where I'm going to do things like attach functions to a struct or create structs and then like reference to those structs. If I have like a static flat array of data, for example, I'm going to have to do this like struct references array data at certain index or read from a certain index up to a certain point of an array, feed it into a struct, put the struct in memory, point to the struct, etc. And ultimately for what I'm doing here, all I really care about is I know my data up front. I know the structure of my data up front. I don't need a struct to hold them. So all I want to do is use enums. And the enums are just an offset into a chunk of an array. And that acts as my struct. And then I have no overhead of struct, even though it's minimal. I know it's minimal. I know it's small. But I just don't even have to worry about doing a struct. And I literally just point to a statically sized array of data that I know I want because I'm building this game the way I want it. Then again, though, I dole out all of my memory from a custom allocator. So that's another reason I didn't do it, because game state for me exists in a big ass block of memory. Right. All you got to do now is change back to Vim. Yeah. Yeah. So I do have a custom allocator in C that I have looked at, but I'm not going to use unless I absolutely need it. It's Walloc, and it's super simple. It's super simple. So it's a really basic way to create an allocation of memory inside of WebAssembly, a really basic allocator. So I do have a way, should I need it, to create a dynamic allocation of memory. But because I know my data structures up front, like this isn't a game engine, right? I got into that trouble before. Because it's not a game engine, I don't have to worry about somebody coming in and dynamically creating data that I haven't accounted for. So maybe somebody wants to create like 1,000 NPCs instead of 100. I don't have to worry about that. I know my NPCs because this is my game. So given the nature of knowing that, all I really need is just the memory I need. I don't need anything else. Sounds like early optimization. I would actually counter argue and say it's non-optimization. I feel like if I was to add dynamic allocation, dynamic memory, worrying about thread safety, etc., I'd be worrying about things that I currently do not have to worry about. I don't have to worry about dynamically sized data. I don't have to worry about threads. I don't have to worry about multiple workers. I don't even have to worry about SIMD, although I could, like running the same operation at the same time on an array of data. Like I don't really have to worry about that. I know what everything's going to be. So I'm just going to stick to what everything is. And then once I hit a point where it's like, oh crap, well, now I need this other thing, then I will do it. I would just say minimally to pipe it through a macro that you could then replace with calls to a custom allocator if that ever becomes an issue, so you don't have to change your entire code base. Right. Okay. So I would take the Walloc stuff, run it through a macro, and then wait, is that right? I would take the Walloc C, wrap it in a macro, because then I can use the macro and I could optionally change this Walloc. right? You're overlapping two arguments. One is avoiding the struct overhead. The other one is dynamic allocation. Yeah, okay. You can still have big static arrays of structs. Yes, I can still have big static arrays of structs. Yes, yeah, Vampire, you're right. But I also don't need the structs. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't need them. They don't give me. I don't personally have a benefit to have a struct right now. If anything, the struct kind of it enforces a requirement on me to have to create the struct out of a static array, like a big array of general data. I would then have to create those structs. Then I'd have to put them somewhere and point to them. And I don't need to do that. If I know where my data lives, I just point to the data. Why do I need a struct as an intermediary? The only benefit it gives is like readability, I guess, and like a structure, like, you know, thus the name struct. But I don't really need that. I'll just use my enums and just point to the data that I want. I just don't see the need to have a struct right now. Yeah, the benefit would be that it's more readable. It's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make. If you've ever watched any of my streams, that's the exact thing that I argue against with things like React for the front end, where it's just to make the developer feel good. It's not because they actually need it to make their thing work really well. It's just a feel good thing. And I don't need structs right now. I might need them in the future, but I don't need them right now. So I don't think I'm pre-optimizing. I think I'm just I'm just minimalizing into like, what do I really need? React is a back-end library, not a front-end library. Get out of here, Marco. It's a front-end library. It's not a back-end library. Depending on what you're doing, though, structures of arrays might be more beneficial than array of structs for cache line reasons. Yes. I have kind of thought about this. What I did is I took the flat array of resources, right? So let's just say like let's take items, because I did it with items. And I sort of kind of thought about this and played around with it. So what if I have, so just imagine there's like 10 items. It's like 10 swords. They each have their own durability stat, right? So it could be like each one has a progressive stat, each 10, it doesn't matter, whatever durability stat. And I want to take a portion of them and filter that resource, those set of resources, those swords by a particular durability like threshold. So like this, filter collection, filter low durability items. And then what I do is I put it into a global resource, which is just a catch-all resource for filtered resources. So what I can do is I can extract general resources that I have and then put them into a filtered, like more parsable set of resources on demand so that I can the intent behind this is that it should make it more efficient to iterate over the things that are filtered, including like I don't have to pull in all their data, right? I don't have to pull in the full item. I could pull in only the pieces of data that I want for this filtered collection. That's kind of the intent. I haven't actually tested to see if this works the way I intend it to, but I've been thinking along those lines. Yeah, I don't need to use pointers. Vampire. The point of the handler system is that you create you just use IDs, which can be like uniquely generated, or you could just use array indices if that's what you want to do, and you just point to the offset in your array. And then what I have with the handler system, this is Travis's trademark copyright idea, I guess. You have an array of handlers where something wants to access a resource. And in between that, sits an array of handlers. And it's like a pseudo pointer. So you're going to say, I want to I want something to point to a resource on the other side. So I'm going to pull the ID of it. And that ID is going to lead me to where it lives in the actual resource pool. And then I can do things like I can keep track of how many things are referencing a resource so you don't accidentally free a resource while things are still pointing to it, for example. Or if the resource gets invalidated, you can generate an ID that is an invalidated ID. So if anything goes to check for that resource later on, it checks first for that unique ID. And if it doesn't match because the ID has been invalidated, then it knows that it's reaching for a stale resource. So I don't actually need to use pointers. I don't have to worry about like memory fragmentation. I have zero memory fragmentation this way. I don't have to worry about thrashing my memory at all. I don't have to worry about cache hits or misses. Even in the off chance, there's zero chance of that happening. All I do is I pre-allocate everything because I know what it's going to be, put my data in there, and then point to it. So I don't need pointers or structs, not right now anyways. If I ever need a struct and I want to use the dynamically allocated data, then yeah, I might have those issues. Yeah, not trademark or copyright. Trademark and copyright, you need to make money off of that. Anytime, you know what, Travis? Anytime anybody says handler, you should be making like 20 cents. Only pull into cache what you need. Yes. Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping that this cache idea of like a global filtered set of collections on demand, which then I can free once I'm done using them, and I can pick and choose the data that I want in here. I'm hoping that it kind of lends itself to the SOA AOS a bit. Like it's kind of like it's not a full implementation of the two, but it's kind of like a pseudo implementation that lends itself well to a cache line. I said that really poorly. Essentially, I'm trying to make it cache friendly so that the actual operation under the hood, like what the actual CPU does in the cache line, is just a little bit better because I already have a cache pool that's ready to go, and I dump it in there, and hopefully the cache line is like, oh, thank you, you made it easy for me. I don't have to go read this big array of like 100,000 swords. I just have to go look in the small array of the swords that you actually want me to deal with at this time. So hopefully, and the data set is smaller and all of that, right? So hopefully it means that the cache operations are much nicer in a similar fashion as what you get when you think about structs of arrays and arrays of structs, which is in a similar vein, right? You're restructuring, you have the same data essentially, but you're restructuring the kind of like the order, I guess, of the data, or which data takes precedence in terms of like how it's stacked onto the memory or something along those lines. So hopefully I'm kind of achieving the same thing or something similar. So yeah, there you go, Travis. You know what I mean? Okay, good. So I started doing the rewrite. I have a plan. I'm going to be using the enums to read into these resource handler pools. Well, no, it's the enums layout what the resources actually mean. I go grab an ID off the handler system that points to a resource, and I can always go to that resource and use an enum with an offset to tell me what the data structure looks like, so I can pull that data. So as an example, if I have the resource stat for an NPC or an item, it would be HP and MP. Where is it? Oh, right. It's all actually contained. What am I thinking? It's all right here. Right. So it's actually like for items and NPCs, it's actually this simple, because what I'm doing. So I take a resource ID. No, I'm not putting all resources into the same array. These are NPC resources. These are item resources. Resource types? Yeah, resource types go into the same array. I'm going to break this down into like weapons, because weapons are going to want their own thing. You know, ships, they're going to want their own thing. Strings are their own thing. Yeah, keep them separate. That's right. I don't need to have them together. They are their own separate thing, and I know what goes into them. So then when I go to grab the stats for an item, let's say I wanted to grab the stats of here, durability, right? So the item data offset will tell me that the offset would be 0, 1, 2. Okay, so I would pass in 2 as the stat here. This variable would get 2, and my resource ID would point to a resource ID of this. Okay, and so what this resource ID does is it will say, I want a resource ID that points to a particular item in my pool, in my array of items. So it's going to grab the item that I want, and then it's going to update data in the handler array. And the handler array is going to count things like how many people are currently referencing this thing. I don't think I'm doing that here, but I could. Here's a unique ID. Is this like slot occupied with an active resource? You know, things like that, right? And so then I'll return a resource handler. So when I go to get the stat, I'll pass in that resource handler, and I'll pass in literally the number 2. And it will determine that because the resource handler type is resource item, it's going to go check and make sure that everything checks out. Are you trying to reach for an item that doesn't exist because we don't have an array of that size to begin with? Cool, return a 0. Does the unique ID match the current handler's unique ID? Like, has this been invalidated? Has the item that you're reaching for gone away? It's got destroyed because of some action in the game. Okay, well then you're trying to reach for something that's your resource is out of date. Return 0. Are you sure that an item even exists here? No? Okay, then return 0. And then what you'll do is you'll reach into the resources, like the item resource array, and your base index is the offset. So if it's item 1, it's going to be 0 times the length of that enum. So the length would be 4, right? Is it 4? Item 0, 1, 2. So it'd be 3, sorry. So this would say 3. I just use this because it's an easy way to deal with it. So it'd be 0 times 3, 0, right? And so your first offset is 0. And then if you want to get item 1, it'd be 1 times 3, and your first offset would be 3. And then the stat is added to that base index, and that tells you how far further into the array you need to read to get the value for the stat you're looking for. That's it. I see you're returning 0. Does that mean that none of your resources can have a handle ID of 0, meaning the first element of the array never gets used? So technically, yes. The reason why I'm returning 0 is simply because I haven't updated the return value. I already have here, Sentry. It's a stupid name. It's just what I like to call it. These should all be Sentry. I just haven't converted them. And Sentry is defined as, see if I can find it. Of course. I always get performance anxiety around Travis. Are you kidding me? Okay, here. Sentry is just uint 32 max. That's all it is. So I just have to replace those zeros with Sentry. I just haven't gotten around to it. So that means that 0 is a valid ID to whatever. You can use 0. But if you ever see this value, then it means you're off the reservation. And then in my HTML, when I execute the WASM code, I have a function that I've exported out of WASM so that JavaScript can call it. It's literally called getSentry. So anytime I receive an ID out of WASM, I can also check that it's not the sentry from WASM. And I can do that in the browser. So I can do like a confirmation that I haven't hit a wall on the JavaScript side. I would change that. I use something called invalid ID, which for U32 is really just like max U32. That way the 0 index is actually valid. Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing, right? Like these zeros, I agree. I need to change all these zeros to sentry. And then the definition of sentry is max. Oh, you typed it before you explained it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. And then I can check it on the JavaScript side. When I actually use the WASM code, I can execute a function like get current scene dialog string ID. It's possible that I get into some weird state on the JavaScript side and I call this function maybe too late, maybe too early, and I receive an ID that is incorrect. Well, I have a way to check for that incorrectness. If I ever change what the sentry value is inside of the C code, it will just automatically, it'll just get checked, like automatically I just have it. So whatever that blocker is on the JavaScript side, I can always just do a check and I'm good to go. Yeah, the likelihood that you'd actually have max uint32 is basically 0, so it's an easy way to check if something is invalid. Correct. That is a huge number. It's like in the, what is it, in the 4 billions or something? Like it's a huge number. When are you going to have a single value in memory that's going to go that high? That'd be crazy. And then if you do, then okay, you have to deal with that, right? But never come anywhere close. Yeah, neither have I. Yeah, so the downside of doing this, it's a downside and an upside. I was not exactly happy that I couldn't just port my Odin code. If you do step it up to 64-bit, you'll never hit that. Yeah, 64-bit gives you a lot of room. I wasn't really exactly happy that I couldn't just port my Odin code directly to C. One for one. I guess I could, but then I had to change the way that I approached the game in C, that I didn't have to worry about an Odin. I have to think about that a bit more before I can articulate why that made me feel icky, but it did. So a bad thing, but also a good thing. I did have to implement some of my own stuff. So one of the things I had to implement was string copy, because when you compile, where's my compilation? Here. You can't use standard libraries for WASM32. So I cannot actually import string, which means that string copy I don't really have. Fortunately, I really don't need anything fancy. So I just implemented my own string copy. There are a few other ones. String length, I had to implement my own here. String comparison, I had to implement my own. uint32 max, I think this was just an alternative to sentry. Memory clear, I think this was just a play around. That's it though, right? So like that's really all I had to do. So on the one hand, it kind of sucks because you have to exclude standard library when compiling for WASM to C in order to make it function correctly. Otherwise you get all sorts of weird errors and whatnot. But it didn't actually take that much effort to re-implement the things that I really needed at a basic level. This gives me all the features I need to pass around strings and arrays and stuff in between JavaScript and WASM. And honestly, I think it'd be enough for just about anything that uses this. So I actually learned something being forced to do this. So it worked out well. Roses and Bezos, hello. I think you're a first-time chatter, yeah. Oh, and thanks for the follow, yeah. Why did I move back to C? Out of principle. I like Odin. I actually even really like Zig a lot. But what I do not like is when languages or frameworks or libraries or whatever think that it's okay. I don't know exactly how to put it because this isn't coming out right, but when they start making decisions on behalf of developers because they think developers make mistakes, and so what they're trying to do is guardrail developers from making those mistakes. And one of the things that was done with Odin recently was I think there was good reasoning behind the decision, but essentially the ABI was changed under the hood in order to account for byte layout management, I believe, for things shorter than like 16 bytes or something like that, depending on how you used pointers, because developers tend to get themselves in a shotgun your foot situation when you use pointers in a particular way, etc. Once you start opening that door, then you start saying, well, we should prevent developers from doing all kinds of stupid things. And by principle, I can't. I would much rather a detailed blog post be written about how you can get into that pitfall and how you can avoid it, as opposed to the thing doing it for me. Because otherwise, why would I have anything against React? So yeah, a string lib is easy to write. Feel free to steal any of my functions if you need them. Yeah, okay, thanks, Travis. Because I know you have a few. I kind of borrowed a little bit from your identifier here, from Kohi Core. But yeah, like strings. You know, I might, because this might be useful for damn, yes. This might be useful for when I want to pass strings from JavaScript into WASM. Anyway, yeah, I might borrow this. Yeah, K-string. A lot of UTF handling. Yeah. Hey, Movie Night Productions. I know there's an ad playing, but thank you for the follow just now on the Twitch side. Yeah, so I might borrow this because you do have some, like, if I look at UTF here, you do have UTF-8 length. Let me go back over here. That's name. Oh, I see. Okay, so you're okay. Got it. Yeah. So you're creating here, and then your ID is for this is probably an ID generator, most likely. And then yeah, string format, string empty, string copy, string trim. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I might string taf 64. Yeah. Oh, this would actually be really, really good. F64 to string. Oh, this would be really good. Admittedly, it only handles up to 4-byte UTF-8, so not 5 or 6, but so far that hasn't been an issue. Yeah, you know why I think this would be good? So what I have to do, okay, so extracting strings out of WASM is okay. You just generate a string. You have a pointer and a length. And then so then in JavaScript, read string from WASM. All I do is I take a buffer which just reads in the WASM memory, and you give it the buffer pointer, which is the start point and the length, and then you use a text decoder to turn it into UTF-8, right? So extracting a string out of WASM is fine. Although this feels a little weird too. I may have a way around this, but putting a string into WASM is a whole other ball of wax. I do have some more work to do to get rid of some of the things like sprintf, but it's pretty far along. Okay, fair. In order to put a string into WASM, you take a string, okay, you encode it to bytes. Then you have a pre-allocated portion of your WASM memory. You don't have to do this portion. You can reach in and do something like, where's my set? You can set the memory. Somewhere in here, I can set the memory inside of WebAssembly directly. I don't have to do this like pre-allocated buffer, but I have a buffer. I'm treating it kind of like maybe what you might do in the console, in the old console days, where you had an input buffer, and then the console would ask the user in some unified format. They probably still do this in current consoles even, and it would pop up like a string input, and you'd put in whatever, like on your PlayStation console, and then it put it into the game's buffer, and now you have access to what the user put in for like the name of, I don't know, something, right? So it's like a buffer. I set aside a buffer in my WASM memory. So I point to it, I get the max size of the buffer, right? And then I set it. I literally take the bytes of the string and I set it. And then I also have to set the actual length, because if you think about it, let's say that I set aside a buffer length of 30, but I input a string that's only 10 characters long. So you have 30 character length set aside as a buffer, but you only have 10 characters in there. When you're on the WASM side and you go to read that input buffer, you're not going to be aware that it's actually 10 characters. So you, along with the setting of the buffer, you also have to set the length that your string is intended to be, which means you need a secondary variable to say, by the way, don't look at all 30. Look at the first 10 characters, because that's what you're doing. It's really weird. You could do like null termination, like /0, but that's not guaranteed to work in my experience in using WASM. It's not consistent. Sometimes it does work that way and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know what the difference is. So I've resorted to having to do this, which is setting aside that buffer and then passing the length. If I understand correctly what you've got. Yeah, Moldy Frogman is here. C is becoming a functional language with the introduction of Lambda functions. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's lucky or not, but it's something. So if there's something like F64 to string, what I could do is possibly pass in a float. I could do like float 32. Yeah, float 32 to string. I could probably take something like this with your string format function. If I could type here and convert. Oh, you are, aren't you? Yeah, which means I'd have to import. Okay, but you could still do it. You'd have to implement your own version of VSN printf. Yeah, you could do it with your own version. I mean, because then you'd have a completely independent version, and then you could pass in a float. So instead of doing this weird thing in WebAssembly, right, you just convert this string to a float as an example. You'd pass in a float, and that would be your string. That could work. That'd be dope. That would be dope. Yeah, it's convinced to roll my own list of to-dos anyways, along with scanf. Oh yeah, scanf. Yeah. Scan, I'd actually just implement VSN printf in place in the string format function. Okay, so instead of like, I think I see what you're saying. Instead of a separate function that's like my VSN printf somewhere out here that you call, you would just build it like right in here. Sorry, like in here, wherever it is. Yeah, string format v leads to here, which leads to, yeah. So you just do it in line here. Okay. Eliminating the variadic function might be kind of difficult. I need to look into replacing stdarg. Because of the replace, like here, right? This guy, where you can pass in. Yeah. Because in order to be able to do printf, essentially, in order to be able to format the string, you're going to do things like %d, %s, whatever it is. And then you have to pass in those replacement values. And that's what the variadic function parameter is here. It's the 3 dots. It's saying everything that comes after these first two parameters has to fit into %d, %s, whatever. That's your printf. That's really the reason you haven't done it yet. I mean, okay, hang on. Check this. Okay, check it. I don't know how easy it is to read this all. I dummied my way through it. This is dummy mode. I actually don't know if, but that's got to be using stdarg somewhere. Hence VA. Yeah, you're right. That's right. I forgot. I included that thing. Right. Which is weird because, I mean, I guess it's not a standard library, I guess. Like, I'm definitely not compiling no standard libraries. I guess it's not. Maybe it comes. I'm actually having a hard time understanding why this is actually okay. Because if I do string, where is my, here. If I do string and then I try and compile, yeah, string.h not found, because it's not part of the standard library. Same with what was the other one that wasn't part of the standard library? Anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, well, at least this part works for me. But okay, so if I do have this part working, then that technically means that I could probably actually get away with using your formatter here. And I could just replace VSN printf with what I have, with a formatter that I have. And that could potentially lead to a float being considered a string inside of WASM if it's done right. I actually don't think you can pass along variadic parameters in that function. Like I don't think on the JavaScript side I couldn't pass in. No, why not? I can absolutely pass in more than one parameter. So I could pass in a float plus extra parameter values, and then I could variadic that crap. Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna steal your float to me. Yeah, maybe the float would be the best one. I'll take your float 32 to a string, and I'll just kind of like, I'm basically going to be a thief, and I will take the parts that I think are relevant, and I'll see if I can pull it off so that I can pass a string in to WASM from JavaScript. If that works, that would be a very cool problem to have solved, as opposed to the regular implementation of set aside a buffer, read into it, and when you do, make sure you also pass the length of the thing you read in so that WebAssembly knows how much to read from that buffer. This is super weird. This is awkward. Even reading from is also a little bit awkward, but it's not so bad. Like I could live with this. But even if we were to go float, you take a string from inside here, inside WASM, turn it to a float 32, pass the float 32 into a function in JavaScript, which you can do directly. You can make a direct call into JavaScript and pass it a float 32. And then in JavaScript, instead of reading the memory, you read a float 32 and convert it to a string. Even that would be easier, like better than reaching into the memory directly and picking out a portion of it and then doing whatever. Yeah. I will let you know if it works. That's kind of cool. That's a cool thing to test out. Interesting. Honestly, for F32 to string, I'd probably just implement it without something like VSN printf. If I was thinking, if I wanted to keep it simple, could I just avoid formatting and variadic replacement formatting? Could I just start by avoiding that and keeping it stupid simple, and it's literally just a string? Yeah. And then I don't need the printf or the formatting. I just need to say, can you just take a string? That's the starting point. Can you just take a string, right? Give me the float for it and convert it in both directions. And if you can do that, then you remove the need for memory access for weird memory stuff. Done. That would make string management way easier. And then you build in formatting with variadic replacements, printf, all that stuff by hand. If that's what you want to do, just grab any C library or grab what you do, or I'm going to, try my hand at something. And then, yeah, then you've got variadic replacement formatting. It was way nicer. And we all get to learn along the way. And isn't that the most important thing? Right? Isn't that the most important thing? So out of curiosity then, how would that actually work? I'm actually going to have to pull out my programming brain and completely botch this, I would have to pull out. Just when I thought my refactor list was shrinking, you maybe want to eliminate all the standard lib stuff from my code base. Listen, I'm having to do it for WASM. It's forced my hand into doing it. But I've learned. Even just super honest, WASM forcing my hand to not use the standard library because it gets weird or inconsistent or simply doesn't compile has been nice. It's been annoying, but it's been nice because I didn't understand how string copy worked. I think I understand it better. I still, when I look at it, it kind of hurts my brain because I have to look at star destination plus plus equals star source plus plus, not equals to 2/0. Return original destination. Now, I get it because essentially what it's saying is do a comparison check and copy over. It's like a pointer to pointer copy as you increment the string. Copy the one string, the one character over to the other character from dest to original dest or something along those lines. And when you've reached the end, which is a terminator of the string /0, then you know to exit and return the copied string. I sort of like, I can start wrapping my head around that, but only because I was forced to write it. So even though it kind of hurts my brain to read it, it's been nice to be like, oh, the standard library is not as unapproachable as I thought. The string copy isn't as like magic, as I initially thought it would be. The same with the formatting. Of course, I can't find it now. Here. So I understand that like I'm going to take a pointer to the string. I have my variadic functions that I need to do replacements with. I'm going to look for things that start with a percentage sign. Then I'm going to skip the direct insertion of the string and deal with this specific. It's like a off by one, right? Once you see the percent sign, then it means that you want to do a replacement. So like, I started to understand like, okay, it's really not that bad, the standard library. And it was nice to be able to learn like, okay, I kind of understand how this works and being forced to do it by hand, right? But is it annoying? Yeah. And my brain still hurts. Like looking at it, it's like, oh man, the modulo 10, I've forgotten why I did the modulo 10. I probably looked this up. Well, val is greater than 0 plus 0 plus, this must be like a number to string. Okay, right. Number to string. Right. You're doing digit conversion. Right. And then and then you have to do copy in correct order because you have to do a minus to a plus because you're incrementing on the pointer, but then you're dereferencing a decremented num pointer or something like that because you have to read it in, it's like a zipper. Anyway, yeah, comments come in handy. Yeah, but I got to the point. This wouldn't handle something like some of the more complicated replacements where you're doing like % d, where you want where you want to say like you actually want the string to say 20% and you want to put the percent either before or after the number, but you want the number to be dynamic. So you'd have to go like % d or %d%, and you want the first % or the last % to be escaped. Yeah, exactly. Like this won't handle that. I don't think. I think it only does the one. So I just have to deal with it, right? When I come across the need to do that, I'm going to have to deal with it here. But I mean, if I can handle this, then ideally, hopefully, I can handle the extra formatted whatever it is, right? But it's been nice to learn that stuff and be like, oh, standard library isn't that bad. It's doable. Yeah, percent escape, yeah. So if I were to if I were to kind of like, I wonder if I can just take kind of what you've done here. I already have the variadic procedure. So maybe all I really need to do is essentially copy the logic here and put it into my console log format, because my console log format already kind of does like, I wonder if I can just hijack this function, you know what I mean? And put in character buffer allocate length 1 plus memory tag string. Okay, buffer length. And then unsafe character buffer can fit on the stack, copy memory, string empty, string copy, string end copy for the length, copy the memory, then trim it, looking for /0. Okay. Mid on 0 length string. Honestly, don't know what this means, but that's okay. I can skip that for now. String index of. Okay. So, yeah, I wonder if I can just hijack that function and put in the float, a direct float conversion. By the way, I can't even do this. I can't do the brackets around to initialize an array, because it considers it a memory allocation, and unless I define a memory allocator manually, like with walloc or whatever, it freaks out on runtime. So yeah, I can't even do that. That's technically an extension. I see. Could just memset 0 if you need to. Right, yeah. All I do is I just initialize it, and then I literally just put in I put in like this, I can't remember what the heck this is called, the semicolon or whatever. I put it here, and then in the next line I just go like buffer 0 equals 0. That's all I do. And then WASM's fine. It's like, oh, okay. It's really weird, but so yeah, I would have to essentially take, oh, come on, I hate GitHub for this. I'd have to take this and copy, I'd have to extract the bytes out of the float. You could null terminate the result, it doesn't matter anyway. True, yeah. Yeah, I'd have to take the float that I passed in, take the bytes out of the float, say float 32. Let me just have a look at F32. No, string to F32, and then F32 to string. So you'd format, your format would, so you'd pass in the float as a string that needs to get formatted, right? So this is where your variadic functions come into play, because you're going to want to say %f whatever. Now you could just pass in the f, right? So we can just skip to the part where we do the replacement. Right, so if we go back to here, v start string format v. Okay, so then what I would have to do is I would have to write a case here for f, essentially, and then I would have to do float. We're just going to assume 32 because WASM 64 ain't ready. We're just going to have to assume a float 32 to like car conversion here, where we're dealing with the bytes of the float 32. Hang on, let me see what you're saying. You could know, yeah, no. This is where I'd change to just doing the conversion inline of instead of using the format. Okay, so then I see what you're saying. So then I would just have another function. Yeah, you know what? Why not? Right? Why would I pass it in as a format? So I could just have like an exported function. So if I go up here, let's just go to the top. Let's just right. So I'd go like this, and then I'd have an exported function. Let's just go void for now, and it'd be like f32 to like string, and you would pass in. Let's just do f32 type, whatever, doesn't matter. I can fix it later, and it'd be the float, and then here you would do an inline conversion of f32 bytes to car. I would handle both 32 and 64 under F. That's what the standard does. Okay. I do have to separate them for now because I guess I could ignore the 64 path but still build it. But WASM won't do 64-bit. It's not out yet. It'll only do 32. So you have the maximum you can deal with WASM right now is 32. It's going to come out soon. There's a bit of weirdness around it, and I could turn it on under a special flag in Chrome, but I don't even know if I want to deal with it. Can you feature detect that somehow? Yeah, I could, because I can feature detect it on the JavaScript side and say if 64 is enabled. Then no, you know what I should do? I should set a compiler flag. That's what I should do. If I'm compiling WASM for browser, ignore 64 essentially. If I'm compiling WASM or just the C code for anything else, then I can use the 64 paths. 64 paths allowed. So it would just be a compiler flag. Am I building this for browser.js or not? That would be the difference. And then when the day comes that 64-bit WASM does come out, then I switch that flag. That's all it would be. But the bytes to the character, I am now, I wouldn't even know how to look up how to do that. So float 32, okay, hang on. What does a float 32 contain? I just want to see an example of the value. The maximum, so assigned variable has a maximum value of 2 to 31. Okay. So you 1 bit exponent 8 bits, significant precision, 24 bits. Right. Okay. So this is kind of what you have to do is you'd have to read into the bits that make up the float. And the assumption would be that the same way that you generate the string is the same way you generate the float. It's the same way going in as it is going out. And the bits are representative of the characters in the string. I'm adding those things to my to-do list. I kind of want to do it though, right? Because so for me, it actually matters to me right now because I do need, like if I pull up, let me see if do I have the game running somewhere? Do I? No, I don't have it running anywhere. Anyway, I'm at the point actually where I figured everything out for the game. Like I have all the states, I have all the items, I have like scenes, I've got like a working like you can go into the shop and you can buy things. You can buy a ship that belongs to your fleet. There are captains around. Like I've got it all sorted out on the Odin version. So I am actually at the point where as I'm converting all this stuff to C, I want to clean up along the way and make it right. So I'm at the point where I kind of do need to care about string management here, because one of the things I'm doing is, you already saw I have an array of strings, and depending on the state of a scene, for example, like you're in the scene where, I don't know, you go to the inn to go to sleep, right? And you trigger an interaction with the NPC that manages the inn. That's going to bring up a dialogue. You need to know what text to render in that dialogue. That's going to come out of the WASM string resource pool, and that's going to ship a string over. And you're gonna want to render that string. It'd be great if I didn't have to do weird, WASM stuff like we talked about, and I could do the float thing, or I want users to be able to name their ship. So if they have like a cool galleon or something that they've decked out, they can name it like my cool galleon, which means that they need a way to enter in a string. I need to read this string, and then I need to save it internally. So this is actually a good time for me to try and figure out how I would convert the float to a character on the WASM side, the C side, and how I would return a float out to JS and convert that to a string on the JS side. And I know that an individual character is essentially a U8. It's treated like a U8. They should be able to name it if they want to, right? Because it should just be bytes, I want to say. Instead of, you could do the UTF-8 convert. Okay, so in the WASM side, you could, crap. Okay, on the JavaScript side, you can convert to UTF-8 if that's what you want to do. On the WASM side, you could also convert to UTF-8 if that's what you want to do. But when you're passing the actual stuff around, you're just going to pass the bytes around. I think that's the key, and I think that's what the float is intended to do. Although if you don't care about decoding it with WASM, you could just pass it through as a byte array. I don't think I do care about decoding it with WASM. I was thinking like, what if... See, WASM is never going to render the text. That's the thing. WASM doesn't actually care about the text. WASM just cares that it has text to give you. Right. If you don't need to encode, then just use a byte array. Yeah, I guess I don't really need a float then, do I? The only thing that I would need with a byte array is I still run into the problem of I have to have a place to put the byte array into, and I have to know the length of the byte array. So I'm kind of back to the buffer. Whereas I was hoping that with the float, I could just pass it all in one thing and internally store it almost like a dynamic thing instead of a buffer thing. Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about. We actually need 2 floats. Probably. I probably do need 2 floats. Sup, bad cop. Talking about strings for the record. Yeah, okay, so the JavaScript side needs to convert to UTF-8. But how it gets there could be a byte array. The WASM will never render the string. It just needs to know what the string is. Like it needs to be able to pass a byte array for a string to be handled by JavaScript. So I don't need UTF-8 or anything like that. on that side. But then if I want to receive a string from JavaScript because a user's putting in like the name of their weapon or something, a byte array means that I need to pre-allocate an array exactly like what I'm doing. Float bananery. Yeah, 0.1 plus 0.2 equals 0.3000004. Yeah. Yeah. Negative 0.0. Yeah. These are good ones. These are good ones. I'm going to have to play around with that. I think I still kind of like the idea of a float representing a string somehow, because it would be built in. And then you could pass that float back. I don't know. I'll have to play around with it. And bro's looking at the Matisses on stream. Is not ready for that. Yeah? Yeah, well. Welcome to the jungle. Okay. So then that means that I'm probably not going to steal your string formatter then. Just, it's not good enough, Travis. Okay. Your super awesome C-based string formatter is not good enough. Does not satisfy my needs. I'm going to play around with this idea and see how far I get on the WASM side. It's rubbish. It's rubbish until I remove VSN printf. True, yeah. You did lead me down this path. It's true. But this is a path I need to take because I don't want to be doing, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. This is so awkward. I have a question for you nerds. Okay, go for it. How slow is Atoi Itoa? Bless you. Bless you, bad cop. That's quite the sneeze. And reverse sneeze. Bad cop. You okay over there? My current theory is that this is why Bash is slow at math, but I need to do some profiling. How slow is Atoi Itoa? Oh, I feel like it's slow because of the actual implementation. I think is slow. I want to see the code that does it. No, I don't want to know how to use it. I want you to tell me how it does it. A toy function reads a rep of a whole number from a string, returns its value. While reading, it first skips over any white space, spaces, tabs, or new lines, and then reads all the characters until it runs into one which is not part of the number. It will stop reading if it finds a decimal point because it is only expecting a whole number. If the character it reads do not form a valid number rep, then it returns 0. Is that really how it works? Why do I feel like that ain't right? Here, libc. Here, okay. I think it's ATOL. I think ATOI just passes to ATOL. Hang on, what's chat saying? I think each math operation is converting your variables to or from a string. I mean, I would say that ATOI is probably quicker than something like sprintf because of having to parse the format string, but I would want to profile it. Okay, so you pass in a number, you get long value, integer, negative. If the first character is 0 and then the next character is x, then you're dealing with a hex. And so then you deal with it in 16 because you want to get the hex out of it. If you assume it's a decimal, and then if the first one is 0, then you're dealing with a negative number. And so then you multiply it. I guess this would be like the equivalent of like absolute, or I guess. And then that's it. This shouldn't be slow. Right? Like this shouldn't be slow. Yeah, straight int addition. Yeah. If you're okay, yeah, if you're doing straight int addition, then obviously the int addition is going to be faster because you have the added conversion of a string conversion, but actually you don't even just have the added string conversion. What you also have is the added check to see what the string even is. So you need to know the string to convert in the first place, which means you're probably this is actually probably quite accurate, because you're probably, so what this is doing is it's checking this, like it's literally having to say, what is this string? And then depending on that string, convert it and then do whatever it needs to do on that conversion. So you have a string checker, you have a string converter, and then you have value math, I guess, to add to it. So yeah, I guess it would be slower. It'd vary on the length of the string, and int addition is just one cycle. Yeah, it should just be one cycle. So if I add integer caching to bash, maybe it will be fast. Yes. I mean, yeah, I suppose if you had like a table, like a pseudo table lookup of characters to integers, I guess, and then you wouldn't have to do the conversion yourself. You could just say like this means that. If I'm following you correctly, I might not even be following. If I add integer caching, yeah, that would be a table, a lookup table. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Caching variables with their integer version. Caching variables with their integer version. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay, yeah. Right now, variables are just strings. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if you're going to be able to get it to be as fast as addition, obviously, because you are saving you're saving an operation that way, but you still have to do there's still a lookup you have to do. Like you're still going to need to reach into the cache and deal with it. So I guess it would be better. I just don't know how much better. Right. It's going to be, I don't know, about 3 times, but I mean, yeah. 3 times would be better than 100. Yes. Yeah, it should be better if you did that. And then you could do like reasonable math operations in bash. And then, I mean, at that point, you don't even need C. Right? Bash could replace C. I think that would work. I think you could replace C with bash. It already has? Bro, it's over. It's over. Bash for the win. Just get a faster computer. Don't be broke. I guess it's that easy. It's that, and run bash mathematical operations. And you're good to go. Damn, why didn't I think of that? It's so simple. Bash for everything. Good computers. Don't be a hobo. Yeah. So straightforward. Can I just say, jeez, what is this? What are you doing here? Oh, it's the it's Travis's short on a bash as a compiler target. Yeah, yeah, I've seen this. Yeah, it was bad cop's word. Yeah, I think you literally mentioned bad cop in this short. I'm pretty sure you mentioned bad cop in this short. Yeah, bad cop. There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that is still dumb. Yeah, well, dumb is as dumb does. Know what I'm saying? Dumb is as dumb does. Chaotic dumb. Okay. I'm gonna call it a night. I could not have. I could not go for a longer stream. I have a lot to do. But at least we went over a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna plug away on this offline, but it was a good stream. We trashed on React, and we went over what I'm doing in C and why I'm doing it in WASM, and we actually covered a lot of the basic fundamentals of like handling strings and arrays and memory, management and stuff in WASM. It was pretty good actually. So yeah, I do have to go. I appreciate everybody who's watching, including all the people on Rumble. It's weird to see a bunch of people on Rumble and YouTube and LinkedIn if you're watching on LinkedIn. And X. Let me see if I can find someone on the Twitch side, send you guys over to. Same category. Who's on? Well, I know Bad Cop's not on. Should I send you guys over to a React tutorial? Should I do that to all of you? Wow, lots of people doing React. Can you imagine if someone made React and don't? No, why would you do that? Okay, no, wait. How would that even work? How would you even make React in? What are you going to do? DOM interactivity run through Bash? How would that even work? If I can make this, I can make React. IRC server in Bash. Yeah, but IRC, no, it's not the same thing. You're not. No, yeah, PHP with OpenGL, I get it. But we're talking about like a drop-in replacement of like VDOM state management of a browser HTML thing, but with no, bad cop, no, I'm putting my foot down. You can't do it. You can't make React and Bash. And I'm not saying like, no, you're not allowed to. You do not have my permission. You are forbidden. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, good luck. You cannot do it. It's not possible. It's actually not. It's fundamentally way too different a paradigm. I'm wondering if this is a way to make React worse. It might be the only way. No, it's too different a paradigm. It cannot be done. It actually cannot be done. Sorry, bad cop. Like, I mean, it wouldn't run in the browser, obviously, so there you go. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter. What the heck would you do with it? Just write bash interpreter in JS. Travis, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to join them. You're supposed to destroy them. You are the chosen one. Why would you give them this? Inc. React for interactive command line apps. Okay, but this is for what I'm okay, look, what I'm trying to. Oh my god, this is disgusting. This is horrible. Oh my god, this is disgusting. Huh? What? No, please don't. No, don't. Oh god, please. I can't. Oh, I'm gonna be seeing React on my like my fridge heads up display. This is not good. Oh, it's so gross. I can't. It has a bash interpret. Spiro, if Bad Cop does this, you must, No, I do not have to use this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. That for the web, that this is great. I don't know. I don't know. It's not working. Oh, it's not working. Oh, it looks like React fails this one. Yeah, everything you need to make this run in the browser. Screw this. You guys are. Forget it. It's not written in React. Oh, okay. Okay, well then it's good. Then it's good. Then it's okay. Call it rebash. Bad rebash. Bad React. Okay, we're gonna go see what this guy's doing. I hate it. Okay. Programming an e-ink display with Raspberry Pi. Yeah. That sounds decent. That sounds decent. He seems to be into it. Okay, I'm going to send you guys over there. I've got stuff to do. I actually have like a life and stuff, okay? Can't be sitting here wondering whether something's like 3 times or 100 times faster than Math Edition in a CPU, okay? I've got better things to do with my life, all right? I'm going to go back to wasting my time. Thanks for the stream, everyone. I appreciate it. Fake nerd, yeah. Appreciate it a lot. Here, I'm going to start the raid over. I didn't have anyone on YouTube, so they can all suck it. Okay, peace out. Have a good one, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody, especially Travis, for helping me out with all this today. You guys are awesome. I'll be on as soon as I possibly can again. I don't know when that'll be. Life's weird right now. Very weird. So I'll do my best to spin up another stream ASAP. Nothing else, I'll do some videos because I think I can pull off a few videos. Anyways, have a good one.